Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide, the most recent Inside Star Citizen finally had a feature on Cargo Refactor, which is a subject, if it was part of the most recent CitizenCon, would have been one of my most anticipated segments. However, there has been enough disclaimers that what was going to be described was the Tier 0 of the Cargo Refactor that my expectations had been substantially constrained by the time they finally showed it. And as a result, it was less disappointing as a little weird, particularly the bit at the end where they tacked on an obvious postscript, or as they call it by the musical term, a coda, about Chris Roberts just happening to stop by his desk. And they talked about changing things some, which doesn't exactly sound like CEO behavior, does it? I mean, the guy has hundreds of employees, and he just happens to stop by one of them just as they finished an overview video about a new system. Pure coincidence, right? Anyhow, the Cargo Refactor is something that we have been knowing would be needing for a long time and has been worked on for some time, but was dependent on full persistence and the entity graph database, because obviously it touches on far more than just the freighter occupation. It touches on salvage, piracy, repair, and much more. And yet the presentations seem to be very narrow-focused on the fact that tractor beams can now allow players to move full SCU boxes rather than 1/8 SCU boxes, and so that when the ship explodes like a loot pinata, they can generate a number of larger loot boxes rather than so many tiny loot boxes, but still ejecting them as some sort of loot pinata. But that misses not just the presence of still larger cargo containers that are already in the game, and that the whole meta direction of the game, component damage, resource management, salvage, boarding, looting, towing, etc., has been away from ships exploding like loot pinatas, but being turned into derelicts for boarding and towing and salvage, which is what I referred to in a prior video as boom then dead being replaced by boom then wrecked. And that is what I think was actually behind that anecdotal add-on coda about how Chris Roberts somehow just stopped by his desk and they agreed to do things so that you would be boarding a husk wrecked ship and having to unload and possibly bring your SRV and just tow the derelict loot and all.
And as a coda to all of that, Chris Roberts actually came by my desk the other day, and we talked a bit how it was unfortunate that we even have to allow players to lose 40 to 50% of the cargo. And we talked and decided that we would try to come up with an interim solution on our path to physicalized damage that would allow us to leave the husks of ships behind on vehicle destruction instead of just exploding them and erasing all the contents. This would allow players to explore the ships and find the cargo and physically move it off the husks of the ships, rather than just generating a percentage of the boxes on destruction.
Does that mean that I think that having some of the cargo would still being ruined in a ship taking heavy damage isn't realistic? Sure, it is realistic. But I wouldn't go with, just as was described here, a 0 to 90 random chance, but rather a percentage based on the type of material. For example, the cargo least likely to be damaged would be scrap, because, well, it's already scrap. Then would come most of the metals and stable minerals, because what could go bad on them? Then natural products and drugs, then processed food, then agricultural supplies, and then medical supplies, since they frequently have precise handling requirements for contamination and spoilage, and then perhaps liquids and gases, since they will leak out or dissipate if the container gets punctured. Now, I'm going to switch from talking about what was shown in the video to what wasn't shown in the video. And to keep it fair, I'm going to frame this as what has to be included, perhaps urgently, in the Tier 1 implementation, and not the Tier 0 that they were showing. The most obvious omission in the presentation certainly will be the need to be included with or immediately after the Phase 0 implementation was these larger cargo containers used by the Raft and presumably also the larger Hull series ships. Since these are likely too large for a handheld tractor beam, what will we be using to move and place them? Some of the upscaled capabilities of the Mule, a lot of things have been shown in concept art over the year, like gravlev drones, portable power units that activate gravlev in the crates themselves, drone ships with thrusters for dock ships in zero gravity, whatever. Maybe something will be unveiled at the IAE. One can only hope. The other extremely important thing is cargo grid snapping. This is essential if we are going to actually be able to use the full capacity of our ships and if we are going to be able to combine automatically loaded cargo with manually loaded cargo. Even if I am not snapping to the grid itself, such as driving a vehicle board, it should be possible to see where the grid lines are so that I can know how much cargo space I am losing by parking the vehicle in a particular location. This brings us to a quick view of the new cargo interface, which does look a lot nicer and attractive, an improvement over the current interface, with the exception of this area here, which not only is apparently not functioning since buying cargo filled up the bar above but not the circles, or in this example squares, but also because the layout is quite useless, since it does not reflect the actual cargo layout of, in this example, the Cutlass Black. Why is that important? Well, let's say you want to buy half a load of cargo, but you want to still be able to fit your buggy in the back ramp. How do you do it? Or let's say you have a little bit of a particular cargo that you know you're going to be dropping off at the next stop, so you want it to be immediately available at the side doors and not have any other cargo on top of it, so that you can unload it easily and efficiently. How do you do that with this? It's not obvious at all, making doing load planning very difficult at best. Instead, the interface should use this middle area of the display, which we already know what a Cutlass Black looks like, isn't really serving much of a purpose now at all. So it could be the load planning area. So for the Cutlass Black, it could look like this, a schematic representation of a grid of 4 wide by 5 long crates stacked 2 high, and then the area 1 wide by 3 long stacked 2 high, which if you aren't a Cutlass Black flyer, is the cargo configuration of the Cutlass Black. Then I could select a type of cargo that I've bought but not yet loaded, and then click on either a single crate or stack in order to fill them up, or perhaps use a click and drag to select an entire area. This allows me to do the kind of load planning that I suggested earlier, such as leaving the ramp empty for a vehicle or putting certain cargoes close to the side doors. Then, if I'm in a location that offers stevedore services, the display would calculate the time and cost, and I could select Approve. All in all, my impression from the presentation is that I'm glad to see something from all that has been talked about the Cargo Refactor for so long, but it seems that a lot that I would have expected from the Tier 0 implementation after so much waiting, grid snapping, automated and manual loading, load planning, etc., is in fact going to be Tier 1 at the earliest. But at least with persistence in place, the path can begin. Now for an update on our ship giveaways. First, there is the piloting contest for the video for the best landing of a ship, Hercules size or larger, that is running until 3.18, with the winner getting their choice of the Crusader Spirit ships. See the video reference in the description for all the details on that. And then there is the Grow the Channel ship giveaway, which we've been running. We've met our membership goal and are at 94% of the subscriber goal, or the IAE Expo, whichever is first, to give some lucky player their choice of the Anvil Liberator, the ship shipping ship for shipping your ship, or the Misk Odyssey, the long-length look-ahead launcher lorry. Now, to be clear, there will be another big ship giveaway after this one, only is just I won't decide on what the prize will be until, of course, I see what might be new at the Expo. 1 entry per video. Members, you're entered automatically, and if the winner is a member as of the publication date of the winning video and the drawing date, they will win both of the ships. For non-members, just be a subscriber and comment somehow including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the musical term that was used to describe that extra bit added to the video segment. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.